Now on Enough Said with KFAN Radio's Dan Barrero.
If your job is to give a marriage license, you can say no on religious grounds.
Attorney and HoldingCourtPodcast.com's Ron Rosenbaum.
But some people say that's protecting their religious rights.
Okay, Ron.
Freeman made a call on the basis of largely, I think, DNA. We can talk about whether the tactics used by cops that led to this led to the escalation.
Enough Said.
I mean, the one in Mississippi is so egregious that, I mean, open the door if somebody say, I respect anybody's religious beliefs. That's a First Amendment right. But to say anybody can say for whatever, these are my beliefs, that I don't have to follow the laws of equal rights, equal guarantees, equal protections, equal services to people based on their sexual orientation is, again, a fundamental violation of their constitutional guarantees, which have been established by federal law.
Welcome back to Enough Said. My name's Dan Barrero, joined once again by Rosenbaum, kind enough to join us finally this week.
I thought I'd
We
stop
appreciate
in
it.
this week.
And Lori Fisher is with us, as always, as well. Lori, let's get going.
Yeah, welcome back, Ron. Our governor, you just heard him there, banning all state employees from any non-essential travel to North Carolina and now Mississippi. This after both states passed laws that allow businesses and others to deny services to people based on their sexual orientation. Ron.
Well, first of all, Dan, I'm not sure what we're doing with non-essential travel in the first place. But in all due respect, whatever he said, I couldn't sound like a little gibberish. It's not unconstitutional. The United States Supreme Court has never said that being gay is a protected class. Whether he likes it or not, what North Carolina and Mississippi are doing are completely legal. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, we don't like the laws of this state because they have bad gun laws, or these people have assisted suicide. At some point, enough is enough.
Well, don't you think there's a little bit of grandstanding going on here where now it's a battle of, I'd call it a progressive off, where we're seeing some big city mayors and some medium-sized mayors of Democratic cities and some states.
I'm more politically correct than you are.
I'm more enlightened than you are. And look, especially in Mississippi, I can't stand what they put in place because it looks like it's so broad.
But it's legal.
But that's another issue, exactly. And here's the other irony to me. Here we are, we're basically saying we want to isolate these states to kind of punish them.
Right.
And yet, on the other hand, I'm assuming Governor Dayton would say, if you can get to Cuba, let's open that up, and open up the lines of communication. And I got a feeling the human rights record at Cuba.
But they don't have any human rights
better.
problems in Cuba.
No, it's wide open, right?
This is where do you draw the line?
Right.
But is it too much to expect the governor to know what the Constitution is?
Well, and here's the other thing. The governor, what is his jurisdiction here? I mean, he's governor. He's not king exactly. So can he, you're the legal guy, can he decree that, as you mentioned, we don't know why any non-essential travel.
What is
non-essential
travel anyway?
What would it be?
I don't know.
But can he decree like this and just make this order? Is that within his power?
Who knows?
And what does it really mean?
Well, did you understand what he said?
Let me throw another question your way. If it's that big of an issue, why don't we also ban essential travel? If you're really trying to make a point that's anything other than symbolic,
well, first
go
of all,
all the way
what
with
is
it.
the difference between how much essential travel are we doing to Mississippi?
I hope not a lot.
I don't
frankly.
think a lot.
I don't think
know.
there should be.
I think the whole thing is, I think it's politically incorrect. I mean, it's one thing, so you don't like the laws of one state.
Right.
But, we have 50 states. We don't all have the same
Well,
state. We all have the same Constitution. But he's wrong about the Constitution.
And that's the key. Well, Mississippi, I will say that the law is very broad, though, in fact, to the point where if your job is to give a marriage license, you can say no on religious grounds. I think that's way too far.
But some people say that's protecting their religious rights.
Okay, Ron, enough said on that. You haven't heard that in a while, huh? President candidates Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz come up on top Wisconsin's primary. Check out Cruz and Donald Trump's reaction Tuesday night.
God bless the great state of Wisconsin. Tonight is a turning point. It is a rallying cry. It is a call from the hardworking men and women of Wisconsin to the people of America.
I've won most of the states, and Ted goes around saying that he won here, he won there, but I've won much more than he has. I've won many, many more states than he has. He refuses to say that.
With Cruz beating Trump there, the chances of a rare contested Republican National Convention jump come this July. What the heck is going to happen with all of this, Dan?
Well, I have to say first that
everything's under control,
Ted
right?
Cruz makes my skin crawl more than Donald Trump, okay? Can I say that again? He just does. But here's
You don't take everything he says at face value.
No, I don't. And, well, I mentioned last week on the show.
Lying Ted when he holds the Bible?
He was lying about basically trying to link George Soros and Kasich. That was a flat-out lie. So sometimes Trump is right.
Well, he's also lying about the fact that he's going to get enough delegates.
That's true.
He can't get enough delegates.
Here's what's interesting about the is it a conundrum or is it a dilemma? Whatever it is that the Republicans have going forward,
it's a
to
nightmare.
A convention that's now going to be brokered. If you, in the end, find a way to, even by rules, take it away from Donald Trump, who's going to be the closest to it, you probably hand the election to Hillary Clinton to the extent that many of the Trump delegates are going to say, they ain't going to go. They're not going to vote in the fall.
They're going to vote. They're going to break into the rooms of the delegates.
That's another story.
They're already handing out keys of the people who aren't going to support him.
Well,
this
I'm
could
just
be
saying,
a riot.
I'm just saying. I don't know that there's a good answer. I don't think Trump can win in the fall. That's my current position. Although we've learned to never say never because weird things, can happen.
The Irish bookmakers have him as the favorite.
Really? Mm-hmm. Well, and they usually know something.
They know a little.
But if they don't believe he can win, then I understand their attempt to take it away from him. But by the same token, like I say, if you take it away from him and those delegates, they're not motivated in the fall, and you're going to lose. You're going to get routed anyway.
Well,
so what's the answer other than rioting in Cleveland?
Have you seen Rance Priebus, who's the head of
Yes, I have.
He puts his head in a vice because it's less painful
there's no
than what
answer.
he's dealing with right now. There's no way out of this box. The odds are pretty good Trump's going to get close, but not get enough. These people are going to come to Cleveland, Dan, and they're not going to say, well, we were close. We don't mind. We're angry. But here, Lion Ted, you take it.
Right.
I mean, I don't see how this thing ends any other way than chaos.
Cruz, I will say, I sense the game, as I understand it now, is to do the negotiation behind the scenes. Basically, we're back to the smoke-filled room days, in effect, and that there's a better chance, I think, Cruz has the machinery in place to do that than Donald Trump, unless Trump just starts threatening.
Which is ironic, because he's the guy they hated before they hated Trump.
That's it.
The
establishment can't stand. And now, and we'll both agree, Kasich. There's no way Kasich can steal it. Correct?
I'm so tired of Kasich saying what a great guy he is.
Okay, we're going to end it on that note since you both agree on it. Thank you, Colorado. Next up, the Wild make it into the Stanley Cup playoffs despite looking horrible and being booed.
Not the way you want to go in it, but they did a hell of a job. We've taken a lot of energy and a lot of bite out of the team trying to get here.
Is it fair for the Wild to be unhappy about the fan and media negativity surrounding this now, Dan?
No, it isn't, but they'll do the old us against them, and then if they play well and steal a first-round series, Ron, it'll be, see, no one believed in us. Well, it's
why can't we go in like other teams?
Just professionally?
Yeah, why can't we
win
go in
for the sake of winning?
standing tall, not back in? Everything has to be wrong. Why do we always have to do it like Minnesotans?
That's because we got a chip on our shoulder. But I can't even see. You're asking me to speak for you because I'm really not one of us. But this team, by the way, it will end up with the fewest number of points and yet make the playoffs in the West in 17 years. Now, my contention as a casual hockey guy is the great misconception is that they're a great team. I just don't think they're as talented as people think. I don't think they're that good, and that's why they're wildly inconsistent. But that still probably doesn't explain a team that's below 500, that's up 1 week, down the next. And so for the players to feel sorry for themselves is sad. It's not basically dealing with reality.
Just one question. Is there any chance on earth they come home with the cup?
No.
Exactly.
I know it's hockey and weird things happen.
So it's not going to happen.
There's zero chances. And we've had basically now this leveling off thing, and that's why people aren't just going to hold a parade for getting back in.
Just in the middle like we always are.
Well, that's the mediocre spot we unfortunately
that's where we are.
Coming up on Enough Said.
The problem with transparency is where you start is where you finish. JFK was killed in 1963.
And
we have all the transparency in the world. Nobody knows what happened.
The night in question, what happened, I never got beaten. I never called the police and said I was beaten by my boyfriend. I don't even know where that story came from. You know, I was tipsy, I was drunk, we went to a birthday party. You know, it was altercation. I tried to break it up. Jamar tried to stop it, and I pulled away from him. I fell, and I twisted my ankle. I called 2 hours later. I said it wasn't an emergency. I said, I think I hurt my ankle. Never said anything about domestic violence. Never said anything about my boyfriend beating me. I don't even know where that came from at all.
Welcome back. Nearly a week after Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman announces there won't be charges against the officers involved in the Jamar Clark case, the woman who was in the ambulance that night Clark died speaks out. Rayanne Hayes says that investigators got it all wrong despite what she told them that night back in November. Dan.
I'm confused by this whole thing, and I'm hoping you can help me out, because at least according again to Freeman, and not everybody wants to believe him, I'm well aware of that, he continues to say, look, he got the same information from, I believe, 3 different EMT individuals who were there to basically take care of what we thought was a victim that night. And they all said that he that she identified Clark as the perpetrator of whatever took place, whether it was domestic or not. We can get whether girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever the relationships were, something took place. That's what he's going with. That's what he'd been led to believe was indeed the case. I'm not sure I understand how any of this, though, changes the outcome, which is that Freeman made a call on the basis of largely, I think, DNA. We can talk about whether the tactics used by cops that led to this led to the escalation, but the bottom line is it did happen. The escalation took place. So what does this really change?
Well, for one thing, this was going to be Exhibit A of transparency. Mike Freeman, for the first time in years, he was going to put all the evidence. He was going to hold a press conference. He wasn't going to go to the grand jury. And I respected him for doing it. He does the narrative, facts, puts it all on the website. Literally within minutes, people said, that's a lie. There's blood on you. I mean, part of the problem, Dan, is if we haven't realized anything else, facts don't matter anymore. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter what she said in the beginning. Now her story is this, and people are sort of wrapped around it. Yesterday to the day before, Tony Boza writes a very odd article basically saying, while the cops basically did things right, they should be charged with crimes. The problem with transparency is where you start is where you finish. JFK was killed in 1963. And we have all the transparency in the world. Nobody knows what happened.
Yeah. Okay? Well, we actually had greater transparency quicker here, you could argue, than we did in the JFK case, where there are lots of those questions.
But whose minds got changed by what Mike Freeman did?
None. And this is why we've talked about this. It took place in Ferguson as well. It didn't matter what the
Ferguson, it was hands up, don't shoot.
Right. And in
here
this case,
it was
handcuffs.
Correct. Turns out neither of them are true, but it doesn't make any difference. People believe those facts.
But I want to be fair here. In many cases, they make assumptions on the basis of what they view as a long-standing mistrust. I don't diminish that mistrust. It in many cases is extremely legitimate. But we're back to that doesn't necessarily mean in a specific case there can be only one outcome. And if you fix it to where it's only one outcome, which is I think what was wanted among some individuals, then we're doomed.
Okay, we have to move on. Let's talk about level 3 sex offenders and where they should live in Minnesota. As cities brace for more of them to be released, the number of local ordinances have more than doubled in the past year, restricting where sex offenders can be put. But in the end, the state has the final say. Ron.
Well, here's the be careful.
Go ahead. Stand tall for sex offenders.
Well,
go ahead, Mr. Attorney guy. Go ahead.
All I can tell you is our sex offender law has been unconstitutional for years. We've never let anybody out. The idea is once you go in, you never get out.
The legal scholar, Governor Dayton, does not agree with you.
Well, he and I don't agree on a lot of things. But the point is, now the problem is when they're beginning to let people into the community, people go, not my community, I don't want to do it. Well, the state may have the final say. So what these communities are doing is saying, well, you can't have a sex offender within 500 feet of a school,
playground,
or 1,000 feet of a church, or whatever. You know, I don't know where it's going to go, but very few communities, Dan, are saying, count us in. We would like
Probably
a couple level 3 sex offenders because we think it would help our property values. The question is, what do you do with these people?
What do you do?
And
even sex offenders
5 to
have
7% of these people are going to reoffend. You want them in your neighborhood?
Well, the one thing I didn't understand is I heard a couple of people say that if you restrict them too much, it actually makes it tougher to track them, which I didn't quite understand why that would be the case, because it would seem to me having some rules in place regarding restrictions from places where kids, for example, assemble, make perfect. I don't think that's a bad idea,
No.
and in fact should make it easier that if then they violate that term to follow up and have them face other charges. But look, we can all be theoretical about it until it's in our neighborhood.
Exactly.
And then we go,
Exactly.
well, wait a minute, not here.
But-
no, I meant generally they have to have a place.
somehow
But where?
other states handle it.
What do they do?
I don't know what they do, but maybe, God forbid, we should look and see what other states do.
Maybe
because,
that's the answer.
we're
I
not
don't
the
know.
only state with sex offenders.
No, but we're not, at this point, it doesn't look to me
Coming
as
up
if
on
we found
Enough
whatever
Said.
the right- But the notion that in 2016 we got people allegedly in some form of broadcast journalism who don't understand that a
That
major
you can't
network,
even cover it.
That a major network, yeah, exactly, it has to apologize or explain interviewing someone. That doesn't mean. There it is. National championship game, Mr. Rosenbaum, and you were very excited.
They can put the Norwood Teagues and they can cheat and they can bring the hookers and they can bring the cheaters and whatever. But the game of round ball, and I don't normally wax poetic, but the game of real round ball.
You're becoming a sentimentalist
No,
here.
in this game, that was it. I mean, that's why we watch live sports, for those moments. For like when Tiger Woods make that incredible putt. There's
In
nothing.
ancient times?
There's nothing quite like live sports, but I don't think there's ever been a better national championship game and two really classy teams. Although one
We'll get to that in a minute.
One has a few problems,
Yeah.
but
Well, here's
I
the
mean, Villanova plays the game the right way, don't you think, Dan?
Villanova plays a great style of ball. It was a remarkable. We've had other great last shots for sure, but to have two in a row,
have we ever
double
seen
clutch
two in a row like that? I
three-pointer-
mean, Leitner's
very rarely.
wasn't
wasn't
the
a
final.
national
No, that
championship
was
game. It was a regional final.
Regional final.
Correct.
Yeah.
So no, we haven't had it very often, and we maybe never to have back-to-back shots like that were remarkable. See, I'm the cynic on this one because I have a harder time rising above all that stuff you mentioned first.
Yeah.
Because the North Carolina story. Well, first of all, North Carolina plays Syracuse in the semis. And both of them have been facing academic fraud issues. So that might be also historic and unprecedented in a single
That's
Final
true.
Four game. And it's become so ridiculous. In the case of Carolina, Roy Williams is this dadgum guy, and everybody thinks he's, just fell off the truck and all that stuff. And, he didn't know anything about an academic fraud deal that went through 3 national championships, football, basketball, involving basically courses that didn't exist. Basically, it was you sign up, you write one paper.
So what's your point?
My point is.
What's your point?
My point is that I can't
My point is you
believe any of
can't
it.
ruin the game. You can ruin
Well, the
everything around it, but at the end of the day, the game is still a beautiful
Which game?
round ball. Okay.
On which level? Because my issue
Actual
is
basketball.
okay. But if you're saying, I think there's too many people who think college basketball is always wonderful. It's not.
Well,
one of the two
I'm not one
semifinal
of those
games
people.
was 40 points.
Okay.
The Oklahoma game. They got routed, and I actually thought as a tournament there were a lot of bad games, and too many people I think because
Well,
they're
the two
kids-
semifinal games were
Right,
horrible.
Right.
But
the
this
point
was
is,
a jewel.
Great game, but just because kids are in it, I think, and it's sometimes and it's close, people assume they're all great games. They're not all great games. That game was a great game.
No, and
But
I don't even think it's college kids. I
I'm
mean,
pro
that could have
basketball
happened
guy,
in the pros as well.
I rather do pro.
Okay, here we go.
I'm
It's
pro
time
basketball
for
guy
the
from way back.
lightning round.
Waiting for the
I've
Wolves to
heard
make
that
the
about
playoffs.
you.
Yeah.
Lightning round time. Let's start off with comedian Amy Schumer calling out Glamour magazine for basically labeling her plus size. when actually she is between a size 6 and 8. Shouldn't we just do away with that term, Dan?
I'm assuming we should at this point. I don't know what terms are okay.
I don't even know what plus size is.
And I don't even know exactly, and I don't even know how it's determined.
What
so
is
I would
plus
say,
size?
I don't know.
This big?
I guess
This
I don't
big?
know, but maybe we're better off without any of the. I mean, we got to have sizes.
Well, this
but I don't
is
know
an
that you need
important
it for
issue in
purpose.
the country, right?
It's one of the raging issues that might determine who ends up with the Republican nomination, I guess. I don't know.
Important to women. A Star Tribune article on U.S. Representative Eric Paulson's trips paid for by outside groups. The story outlining more than $75,000 in free trips, mostly international, his family going too. It is allowed by federal ethic rules, but doesn't come without criticism. Ron?
Well, I think it's wonderful, seriously, that Eric Paulson has decided on somebody else's dime to go see the world. But he's a family man, and I think it's really important that he takes his family. How can you justify this?
Well, can I join his family? I'd like to go on one of the trips.
Seriously, how can you even look at you with a straight face? You see the prices of these trips?
Yes, these are
it's
not
like,
starter
It's not
trips.
like they're flying frequent flyer.
No.
Next up,
God love
NFL
him.
free agent Greg Hardy calls himself innocent on ESPN. He's talking about assault charges back in 2014. But then the network gets blasted by viewers and its own employees for letting him have the stage to talk about it. Dan?
I'd rarely defend ESPN, and I'm not going to defend Hardy because he's indefensible. But the notion that in 2016 we got people allegedly in some form of broadcast journalism who don't understand that a major
you can't
network,
even cover it.
That a major network, yeah, exactly, it has to apologize or explain interviewing someone. That doesn't mean you are necessarily endorsing their position. This guy was a huge name for all the wrong reasons, but why does anybody not get what reporting
So
is
we can
supposed
only
to be
interview
about?
good people.
I guess
Bad
so.
people have to go somewhere else.
It is embarrassing. They should be embarrassed by that they have people
Well,
in their
they're
own
not, I can
company
tell you.
who don't even understand what the job is supposed to be.
A federal judge forcing the Vikings and Wells Fargo to come together at the
There we
end of
go.
the month to work things out over signage near the U.S. Bank Stadium. The Vikings are suing Wells Fargo, saying the rooftop signs will photobomb the new stadium. Ron?
Well, this involves about this far. I think it's about this high, these signs. And a lot of people are wondering why lawyers live in
difference between winning and
million-dollar
losing.
houses,
Right,
okay?
right.
This is exactly the sort of fight that great legal minds will be involved
All the way
up
to the
till the
Supreme
last billable dollar. There's going to be millions of dollars spent on between two companies, Wells Fargo, well, actually three, Wells Fargo, the
Vikings,
and
US
USB,
Bank, yeah.
over whether this is photobombing. Don't we have something more important to
I'd
worry
like to
about?
think we do, but don't, like I said, don't discourage it too much or you're out of a job.
One
No,
minute
I
left.
like it. You
One
love
minute. The Twins announced new foods at Target Field. They include a buffalo chicken Bloody Mary that comes with a chicken wing, or you can upgrade it and add a burger slider. Favorite ballpark food, Dan?
Well, without a question, I'll harken back to last week's show. It would be smokeless tobacco tacos or something. No, look, which by the way, you're not supposed to do, I guess, even at Twins games. I don't have a favorite. The only thing I don't get is, I mean, we're in the media.
The only thing I don't get is there's such a bad baseball team.
Well, it's only 3 games in. Calm down. You know it's a marathon, not a sprint, right?
I've heard that, yeah.
I'm saying media members always show up for that day where the Twins are unveiling
For
this
the
stuff.
free food.
And all of a sudden we have 700 media members in the Twin Cities. The rest of the year we've got 8. Suddenly we have 700 because they all love every piece of
course.
item on the menu that's out there.
When they don't have to pay for it.
That's it.
Right?
And we
Okay.
don't have to pay for it because
Okay.
that's how we are.
But the team.
It's
So now I mean,
we can't score
when I was
right now.
growing up, we were more interested in the team than the food.